Minecraft Bedrock Edition Beta and Preview 1.19.20.21 has just been released, and we're going to start off with the biggest news in this beta and preview, and that is that all of the features have been de-experimentified. Basically what this means is that all features that we have seen in previous beta and previews, just like the cherry blossom biome, archaeology, all that stuff, the new structure, all of them have been de-experimentified, which means that they're now in the base game of the betas and previews, that is, which means there's no more an experimental toggle for the 1.20 features. And that basically means that all the core of these, of all the features has been completed, basically completed, and of course now we are mainly just going to be focusing on bug fixes to do with all these features. Anyways, we can start off with just the bug fixes and changes relating to this. So there are now 4 new creative inventory tabs. We've already seen those earlier, but now they can also have their names get read out by text to speech. Suspicious sand and gravel now play their respective sounds when brushing them has completed. The decorated pot faces and now use the top row of pixels as they didn't before. The picture crop hitbox will now change according to whatever age the picture crop has. The calibrated skulk sensors now power the block below them when active. They now have an active cooldown of 1 instead of 2 seconds, and the calibrated skulk sensors now also detect vibrations up to 16 blocks away, instead of the previous 8. Next, they've also fixed fall damage accumulating when a player jumps on a roofed soul sand bubble column. This was a pretty big bug. So yeah. And anyways, they've also fixed the decorated pot, which now respects the lighting conditions when held in hand, and the conduit block will also now respect lighting conditions under the same conditions as the decorated pot. Then we also have a bunch of bug fixes and stuff like that relating to signs. So a sound is now played when trying to interact with a waxed sign, which is not possible. It is no longer possible to use the ink sac, glow in sac, or dies if the text that would be changed is empty. Interacting with an unwaxed sign whilst holding an item that cannot be used on the sign now opens the sign for editing. Interacting with a sign whilst holding a certain item will also no longer trigger the item specific action. When using gamepad or touch input, the correct tooltips were now shown when interacting with the sign. When editing the sign, the text of a sign, the text color now matches the dye on the sign, and it is now possible to attach a hanging sign to another without actually having to sneak for it. Next, for the sniffer, we just have a few fixes relating to the model and the way it looked. And for the skulk sensors will now power the block below them, just as the calibrated skulk sensor and skulk shriekers will now be silenced when waterlogged. Then as for the vanilla parity, top and bottom door textures now rotate correctly when open and closed from Worlds versions 1.20 and onwards. And then we also have the changes to the vibration frequencies. These have been completely revamped, and vibration frequencies are basically how skulk sensors work, yeah? So for different things, like for example, jumping, placing a block, breaking a block, killing an item, taking damage, are all things that will produce sounds and the skulk sensor will pick up, yeah? And now each of these sounds will produce a different frequency the skulk sensor will produce a different frequency depending on the sound you play. And this also ties in with the calibrated skulk sensor, which will only listen to one specific frequency. Anyways, in preparation for the calibrated skulk sensor, vibration frequencies have been greatly simplified to prevent unwanted interference. So these are the categories, and these are going to be 1 through 15 since there are 15 redstone signal strengths. 1 is movement on any medium, land, liquid, or air. 2 is landing on any surface, which is again going to be land or liquid. 3 is item interactions. 4 is gliding with an elytra or unique mob actions like Ravengers roaring or dogs, wolves shaking. Um, 5 is equipping gear, 6 is interacting with a mob, 7 is mobs and or players taking damage, 8 is consuming items like drinking or eating, 9 is blocks deactivating like doors closing, chests closing, and buttons unpressing. 10 is blocks activating, which is the exact opposite, so doors opening, chests opening, and buttons being pressed. 11 is blocks changing, like the water level in a cauldron rising or adding food to a campfire, so basically the state of blocks getting updated. 12 is blocks being destroyed, 13 is blocks being placed, 14 is mobs and players spawning, and 15 is mobs and players dying or explosions of any types. And that's basically it for the changes. We also have some technical updates. However, those I never really go over those in great detail. You can check those out though. The changelog will be linked in the description. You can also just check out the changelog if you want more details on all the changes in this update, as well as being able to find all the links to all the specific bug reports for all the bug fixes there. Anyways, for right now, that's that. Thank you ever so much for watching, and I hope to see you again in the next one. Bye-bye.